Hi, Amanda. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm well. Thank
Good.
you. So, how have you been since our last session? Has anything changed or improved?
I feel like I have so much to talk about from the last time. I just went home and thought about just all the stuff we had talked about.
Mm-hmm.
I've been working, trying to have more boundaries with my daughter, and so I've done some of that. So I just have a lot to talk about. I feel like.
Okay. Do you want to start talking about your daughter and how that's been going?
Yeah. So. When I first started this, we had talked about all the issues that we had and our communication and boundaries about her calling me at all times of the night and needing me and stuff like that. And I know I was uncomfortable about, putting more boundaries in place because I didn't want her to think that I didn't care for her and didn't, love her and want to be there for her. But I was willing to kind of try it out, and you were really supportive about that, and you didn't push me to do too much because I was really not sure if that's the way I wanted to go. But we had Thanksgiving, and then she it was great. She came over, and we tried really hard to get along, and everything went well. And then later that night, she had gone Black Friday shopping, and she went there, and she had already talked about how she didn't have enough money to pay for her rent and stuff like that. And so I told her it's probably not best that you go out shopping, and I know you want to buy gifts and stuff like that, but I don't think that it's the best, but I let her make her own decision. So she went out and spent her money the way that she wanted to, and so then I think a couple weeks later rent was due, and she said she only had enough money to pay rent and she didn't have enough money to pay her cell phone bill. So I told her that she just had to make a decision, and so she paid rent and asked me if I would pay for her part of the cell phone bill, and I told her no, that I didn't want to do that, and that she is an adult, and if she wants to act like that, then she can, have the consequences. So it was bad.
So yeah, you really set that strict boundary, so I compliment you on that.
Yeah.
How did that feel to do that?
At first, it was super painful. I hated it. I was terrified of what her reaction was going to be. And her reaction was it was intense. She was not happy with me.
What ended up happening?
She, whenever I told her that, she just was called me names and you're not supportive, and I thought you were going to be there for me and all this stuff. And I just wasn't reactive to what she wanted to, talk about and yell about. And I was just whenever you're ready to talk to me, we can. And so then the next day she came around and was just she apologized. I didn't have to do any of the work. I didn't have to tell her to be sorry for what she had done. And so it worked out pretty well.
Yeah, it's something to remember. Your daughter is still a teenager, technically, so there's a lot going on, hormone-wise and, life-wise, just stress and different things, and
I get it. Trust me, I know I put her through a lot, whenever I was locked up and stuff like that. I get it that it's hard, but I don't want her, what I'm realizing, or I didn't know this before, but what I'm realizing is that if I don't give her, boundaries now, then she's not going to have any. And I know I'm super late in the game. I know I missed out on a lot of stuff and a lot of opportunities, but I think I'm trying now to give her more structure and be better. And I used to think giving her just whatever she wants was the best way, but
right, it's better late than never, right? But, you know, it's like she is going through this a lot right now with the transition and being young, and, you know, it's like that, like, line where you're still a child in some ways, but you're, you know, reaching your 20s, you're kind of being forced to move into the adult world. And so I think it's great that she has you as, you know, someone who's supportive and a role model of like how to do that in a really conductive and or productive and like healthy way. So I think you're doing a great job setting those boundaries and, you know, leading by example. Do you think she's kind of like learning from that, or has it been a struggle?
It's only been one time, so I think if I can like stick with it, because I mean I didn't let her see it, but I was struggling to have to make that decision to tell her no. So I think if I stick to it over time, it could get better. But yeah, I mean it doesn't make it. It wasn't easy to do that by any means, to tell her like no, I'm not gonna. You know, help you and like support like bad decisions. I just get, you know, I just worry, and so all these years, that's how I've dealt with like my worry, is to just like help her and like provide for her, and you know, and I think that now she just has this attitude that like she's invincible and that nothing can touch her and that she can do whatever she wants, and like I get it. I mean, I was look at how that, you know, where that got me. You know, I got wrapped up in a guy and did some bad things, and I spent 10 years in prison for it. Like, I don't want that for her. So, like, coming here has helped me realize that there are better ways to, like, help her. And, like, I can't always be, like, her friend. I do have to put some boundaries in, but, like, it's too late to teach her all these things that I missed out on, but I can still do like what I can now.
So do you think like the only source of conflict between you and your daughter arises just when you try to like offer her advice and then she kind of goes against it and then it doesn't turn out well? Is that like the only...
I think when I like first started seeing you, I still am. I was really confused about like her transitioning and like going from being, you know, my little boy to my little girl. And so I was just like upset and confused about that. But I think now that I'm realizing that it's more like we had issues long before all of this stuff happened. And so I think that, you know, most of the time the issues come up like very specific things, but I think that they're like deep rooted and like...
So these issues, they still happen even when your daughter was a boy.
Yeah. So, and at first I was like, I just blamed it all on like myself and like I wasn't around and I wasn't there for you and like where did I go wrong and like you want to, you know, be a girl now because you didn't have a mom in your life. And so I like really took it personally, like it was about me and it was my fault that, you know, she is the way she is. But now, I mean, I still don't understand it and I still don't get it and I still am like dealing with it. But I think that it's a lot more to the story than, you know, the transgender thing. But, and like we talked about last time, like my childhood stuff has played a whole huge role in, you know, what I do as a parent and how that impacted me. Because, you know, again, I didn't think about, like I blocked all that stuff out whenever it happened to me as a kid. And now I'm seeing that since I, you know, went through that, like with my dad and my uncle and my mom, you know, like not helping me, I see how that...
I think it's really common for a lot of adults who, you know, experienced that sort of abuse as a child, when they have kids of their own and they start reaching certain ages. Some of that can be a little bit triggering and, just like a really intense like urge to want to like protect your kids. Has that been triggering for you as you've like watched your kids grow up?
That's definitely like around like my twins. I don't let them go anywhere without me because I was young and dumb when I had my my first child, and so I made so many mistakes. But they're like right at that age where it happened to me, and they're younger, and so I don't let them stay the night at friend's house. I don't let them go anywhere unless I know the person. I just am super protective over them, and I don't want anything bad to happen to them. And that's why I don't date, because I don't want to bring men into in their life, because we've done it just fine with us three, and I don't want any part in that. So,
when is the last time that you dated someone?
I mean, once I got, like, when I went to prison over, that was for my child's, like, father, like, that's who we got, like, I got all wrapped up in that stuff, and spent 10 years in prison, and then I don't date now.
Do you have any interest to date in the future?
I mean, I know, like, I like, wish that I had somebody, like, to talk to, and somebody to, like, confide in, and things like that, but the thought of somebody, like, something, and clearly I don't have a good track record of picking good men, so what makes you think I could do, what makes you think I could do it now? Like, so I just don't want to even think about bringing somebody else into my life, into my girl's life, because, I mean, I can barely live with myself about being away for 10 years, so I couldn't even imagine living with myself if something happened to them.
Mm-hmm. So, do you think, like, if you did bring someone into the house, like, something bad is going to happen?
Yeah. Men can't be trusted.
Do you think that's
I just know that.
Okay.
I've never met a man that I can trust in my life.
Really?
My dad, my uncle, grandpa, like, my father's kid, nobody. I can't trust anybody. So I just know that for sure.
Do you felt like there was ever any trust in the men that you dated before who, like your oldest? Like her father or the twins' father?
I mean, I was just trying to, I don't think it was trust. I think it was about pleasing them and making other people happy. Because I thought that that's what love was. I thought it was about, like, a man wants what he wants and needs what he needs. And so it was my job, like, as a woman to, like, do that for him. So I don't think I ever trusted them. I think it was just about what, like, that's just what I'm supposed to do. And now maybe I'm just too old for that, but I don't have time for any of that stuff.
Well, I mean, that's okay. Obviously, you don't have to have a man to be happy and be okay. So I completely understand that. If you ever came to the point where you wanted to start dating, I feel like you're kind of anxious or, like, nervous about that.
Yeah, I'm really anxious and nervous because, and that's what, like, it's not even about dating. It's about, I can't let my kids go anywhere.
Right.
I can't let them stay the night at a friend's house, because if something happens to them, I'll, be devastated.
So where does your mind go when you, like, think about, letting your kids go out and do something without you being there?
It goes automatically to worst case scenario. They'll get molested like I was, and I won't be there to protect them. And, they'll live the life that I did. Like, it just goes and spirals, and then I get worked up. I mean, that's why, when I talked to you in the beginning about not sleeping, I think that's what a lot of it was too, is I just worry about my kids all night long. I just think about where they are, who they're with, if they're safe, what's going to happen to them if I'm not there. Like, I just get racing thoughts about protecting them, because I was a terrible mom. I've been a terrible mom. And so now I'm never going to let anything bad happen to them like it happened to me.
Well, I'm going to challenge you and say you're not a terrible mom. And I'm going to challenge you to not use that language towards yourself anymore. Because I don't think you made a mistake. I mean, we're not going to try and cover that up or say it didn't happen. It did happen. And I think that, you learned your lesson from that. And I mean, naturally you have some guilt around that. You weren't there for your kids like you feel like you should be. And I get that. But I don't think it makes you a terrible mom. And by you choosing to come to me to talk about these things, like, you have the goal of fixing or bettering your relationships with your daughters. So okay.
I hear you.
Think you should call yourself a terrible mom.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I just don't. It's gonna take me a long time to believe that, and I don't know. It'll take me a long time. I don't want to be my mom. Like, I know. She knew that I was being molested. I mean, I was 5 years old. 5 years old till 12, till pretty much I hit puberty. They were doing that to me, and she knew about it and didn't say anything to anybody. Didn't help me. And so my mom was terrible. So, and I've made mistakes too, and I don't want to be I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be that kind of parent.
Well, I think even just acknowledging that, you're very aware of, what happened to you and what you don't want to happen to your daughters. There's a lot of self-awareness, and I think that sets you apart from, what happened to you, your past. It happened, and it's important to process through those things, but I think you being able to realize that what happened was wrong and not being protected by your mother was wrong. I think it just shows you have the right intentions as a mother and that you're doing a great job. It's not bad to ever want to protect your kids. I am wondering how they respond to your protectiveness.
They're still young, so they don't. I probably feel once they get a little older, they'll not
a little
be
more difficult.
Yeah, but right now I just try to keep them to be my girls and take them with me wherever I go. So maybe now it's not an issue, but in a while it could be, and that's why I think that. I know I can't keep them young forever. I know I can't be there everywhere they go. And so with my older daughter, that's why I worry I do, because she's out of my control now. And we had a fight. I'm the reason she moved out. Our disagreement. So I feel now I'm double responsible for whatever happens to her, since she moved out of the house.
For a lot of people who experience that sort of trauma, they have a lot of feelings of shame and guilt, and even blame for a lot of things. So I feel maybe that can be transferring over to your relationship with your oldest.
What do you think, though? Because I think that nothing bad could come of me over like protecting them, right? I mean, they'll be fine. That's what I think, that if I protect them and I don't let them go places and I don't let them like experience the world that I lived in, that I can just keep them safe. So, do you think anything bad could come of that?
I feel like you're kind of seeing it with your oldest. There's a little bit of like pushback, and it can lead to either your youngest growing up and maybe sneaking around and not being truthful because they're maybe afraid to like tell you something. I think a lot like with your oldest daughter, just setting boundaries. And I think it's important to, teach your daughters what's wrong and what's right, and like, a lot of like safe behaviors, especially dealing with other kids and even the opposite sex, if that's something you worry about. You are in a really great position to teach your daughters like, appropriate, healthy, safe behaviors. Mm-hmm. And I feel like opening up that line of communication, it'll just build, trust between you and your daughters, and I'm sure they would feel more open and comfortable like talking to you about things if they come up. So I think it's just finding a balance of protecting your children. I mean, I think that's completely respectful. That's natural. But if you're, worried about consequences, find the balance of like also giving them space to develop their own personalities, their own lives, but still being there for them to.
So I could try to like do some things that I do like with my older daughters, even like with them before they start to like get into any trouble. That makes sense. I could do that with them too. Yeah.
So I know the first time we talked, since we're kind of on the subject of your past, you were dealing with some of the symptoms of PTSD. Are you still experiencing some of those things?
I mean, like, I think the main one that we had talked about, right, was like not sleeping.
I know you said you dealt with a little bit of depression and even anxiety.
Yeah.
How would you rate your levels with those?
I think it's like comes and goes, because like it depends on like what's going on with like my daughter, and like if we're bad then it's bad, and if we're okay then it's okay. Since the last time we talked, I've been feeling really, really good, but it only takes like one thing, to like bring it down. And that's why I talked about like those racing thoughts at night that I have. Like, I guess that would be like my anxiety, but because that's what it is like racing thoughts about wanting to like protect my girls.
So when something like that happens, when you start to feel really anxious, or maybe you're slipping into a depression, you can't sleep, or your appetite starts changing, do you have a plan or like things that you do to kind of cope with that, or do you just let it kind of just go away
like
on its own?
Let it take its course, because I think that that's all I've known. Like now I don't, like I am out, I have a family to support, I have work, I have bills to pay, and so like if I get 3 hours of sleep one night, that's all I get, and I just keep going, and I get up and go to work, and I think that, it does make me irritable and like moody, and I do have like mood swings and stuff, like sometimes I just snap at my girls, or like my oldest, like sometimes we do have a hard time communicating, because I just, snap.
Okay, well, I think something that we can work on for next time is, or until next time, is maybe coming up with a plan if something like that happens, it's something like a trigger.
Mm-hmm.
It can be anything, just like a thought that you're having, or maybe you see someone that like looks familiar, and that's triggering, or like a smell or a sound or anything that kind of gets those thoughts racing, or you start to feel maybe a little panicked, anxious, or like you're starting to get depressed. We can maybe come up with something to help you process through that, so you don't have to just let it run its course. You can kind of stop it and go from there.
Okay, that sounds good.
All right, so do you like journal or anything?
No, like I said the last time, I've been like walking and stuff like that, so that's kind of like what I've been doing.
Okay.
You know.
Do you have any like triggers you can identify, or is it just like all of a sudden something?
Sometimes it's all of a sudden. Most like, yeah. I don't know. I mean, I don't like to talk about like my family. Like that's like completely like off limits pretty much. And then yeah, like I mean, certain things will like trigger me.
But
like,
it's hard to like pinpoint.
Yeah, it's hard to pinpoint what it is. It just kind of happens. And now talking to you, I might like makes me think a little bit more about maybe those things triggering me. You know, like those like things that keep happening are like actually triggers.
Okay, well, I know that you're a busy lady, but I want to suggest maybe journaling whenever you start to feel, you know, like I said, anything, like if you start to feel really anxious, if you can't sleep, definitely if you are starting to feel some of the signs of depression, like not being able to sleep or eat or losing interest in anything, I want you to, or just if something feels triggering, I want you to take your journal out and, you know, write what you feel. And then I want you to think back and try and see, like just replay what has happened that might have caused this, and then maybe we can find a pattern and see like what is happening, and then we can go from there.
Okay, sounds good.
I want you to keep working on those boundaries with your daughter.
I will.
Okay.
All right.
Thank
you.
You're welcome.